I don't even know. I had him for a couple days. I got him from Craigslist. Some guy was just giving away kittens, and I picked him up and I kind of lived with him for a couple days, and then finally, the name was like that suits him, you know. So I named him Jasper.
A very different Craigslist experience than the.
No, I had a friend come with me because we were meeting in Mansfield, which is like an hour outside Columbus,
Mhm.
and I was scared to go by myself because we're meeting in like a parking lot, and this guy was just handing out kittens.
Sounds very Craigslist. Welcome to another episode of Graphic Content, the podcast where we talk about all things who, why, and what the. My guest today is an art teacher at the Columbus College of Art and Design. He is the author and illustrator of the comic series Oric and Argyle, and he's also been an illustrator in published works such as 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, Children of Mezzalene, and Ministers of the Kingdom, Brian R. Williams.
Hey,
Yay! Oh my God, it's been a hot minute. 4 years
yeah.
now?
Well, we've messaged back and forth on Instagram over the years since then, but we've known each other for what, going on 10 years now
Through the Instagram. Like we've
through the
been
Instagram.
through the Instagram back and forth. Like I stumbled upon your, I don't know how we first, if it was me or you or what, but coming across your page, to me as somebody who works in, my work is very like bright and colorful, to have such a stark contrast to your work. No, but truly, where it's mostly tactile, like you're drawing this, it's hand done, and then it's all monochromatic. And so to that stark contrast, for me, somebody would look at my work and say, oh, you only like bright stuff, but it's so beautiful, the work that you do. So coming across it, I was like, I love this. And the old school
Yeah,
hand drawn.
yeah, I do love the tactile quality of drawing. You know, it's funny, opposites do attract because even though all my work is black and white, my traditional work is black and white. I love color, and I'm attracted to artists who work in a lot of color. My favorite color is leopard print. So,
I love that.
so your work, yeah, is very eye catching to me because it's so colorful, and you have a good sense of unconventional color palettes. You know, like how to mix colors in a very kind of eye catching, unconventional but aesthetic way, which I'm really attracted to. Yeah.
I'll take it. I just do what I like. It's like same with you, where I'm just going to go for the things that I generally, I'm not even thinking about it. I like, obviously when it comes to certain things like branding, whatever, you have to, there's strategy to it, but I just go with that feeling, because if I don't like it, I'm not gonna go for it. So I appreciate that, but we're not here to talk about me. We're getting ready for today, going over some of your work and just reviewing what I already know, but just refreshing my memory, going over your video content, because from when the last time we talked, I don't know if it was like as much of a thing that you were posting. I know a lot of the things you post are static, but you're doing a lot more like showing the process of you illustrating the work, like with the chrono species, that image, just the process of you drawing it out. Like I know what that's like as somebody who is an illustrator, but to see it, it was to come to life, and all the processes and the stages that you do it, it was really, really cool.
Well, part of that was the stupid Instagram algorithm.
Hmm.
Like a lot of artists on Instagram, I'm always kind of like thinking about ways to promote my work and how to get it
Yeah.
in front of more people. And all Instagram was like really like showing was that they were only really promoting video, which is kind of stupid because it was originally like a photo app. But so video did not come naturally to me, but I did a few of those dumb reels that
Hmm.
that Instagram keeps promoting, and then it got kind of fun. It's like, I think a lot of people really are interested to see process and not just the final product, or the final
Hmm.
artwork. So I did a couple of those, but even though I caved and I started doing the Instagram reels because that's what the algorithm was telling me to do. I don't post 3 times a day or whatever, and so it's still like it still shows those reels to like 1/10 of my followers on Instagram. But ultimately, like, I decided a couple years ago, I'm not gonna chase the algorithm. I'm just gonna post when and what I want on Instagram. And I actually ended up enjoying making those videos because it actually um, got me thinking about my process more. You
Hmm.
know, like um, what people might be interested in seeing in the process. Even things like framing something. I did a couple framing ones, and those were really popular because I think it's something that people don't really ever see is when you are kind of arranging something in a frame and cutting the mat and all that fun stuff. No, and my cat's showing up. This is Jasper.
Okay, so what is hilarious about that is that my sister's cat is also named Jasper.
Oh, really? No
I
kidding.
Yes, I think I DM'd you this once, but the when you had posted something about Jasper, and I'm like, what are the odds that the name? Because Jasper's not a common name, period. And then for the cat to be named Jasper, I'm keeping this in the episode, by the way. Like, just this is just for her. Where did you get that name?
I don't even know. I had him for a couple days. I got him from Craigslist. Some guy was just giving away kittens, and I picked him up and I kind of lived with him for a couple days, and then finally, I just the name was like that suits him, you know. So I named him Jasper.
A very different Craigslist experience than
No, I had a friend come with me because we were meeting in Mansfield, which is like an hour outside Columbus,
Mhm.
and I was scared to go by myself because we're meeting in like a parking lot, and this guy was just handing out kittens.
Sounds very Craigslist.
And he was, old enough to be given away, but he was still a tiny little thing.
Yeah,
And I just remember this guy had the dirtiest fingernails I'd ever seen on a person
gross.
ever. And like he had like a hoarder truck, like his pickup truck was just full. Like the doors were bursting with like just like garbage. And I'm scared to know what kind of place Jasper was born into. But yeah, I brought him home and lived with him for a few days, and then I don't know, he was running around being like a crazy kitten, and then I was like, I think Jasper's a good name for this animal. So
That's so cute. He's very, very cute. I
yeah.
I attempted a cat years ago, and I couldn't do it because found out very quickly that I'm super, super allergic. And so that was like a done deal. So luckily, my friend came over for dinner that week and was like, "You got a cat? What the like? I didn't even know you wanted one." And I'm like, "I know, I can't keep it. It's like I literally couldn't breathe." And then it just so happened that she was like, it's really crazy because my husband and we've been talking about getting our daughters a cat. I was like, Great, the serendipitous moment. Like, please home this kitten because I can't keep him. I'm literally
Oh
unable."
yeah, that was
And so
good.
now he lives with them. It's been 4 years.
I was terribly allergic to cats my whole life, and then I don't know, I got older, and then suddenly the allergy went away, and haven't had any trouble since. And I only learned that I wasn't allergic because I'd just be around my friends' cats. I would have never gotten a cat if I had still thought I was allergic. But I've got two cats actually. But Jasper's the one that shows up on whenever I have like a work meeting. Um,
He's like, "What's up?"
he sees me talking to the computer. I think that gets him up here on the desk to like
Yeah,
invade the space and make sure people see him.
I love that. I wish, like, as much as I'm like, I wish I could do it, but I can't. Like, I'm sorry about my well being. If I can't breathe, I'm not doing it. I'm
Yeah, that's
sorry. I've had people be like, "Well, just take allergy pills." I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, sorry,
no, no,
I'm not.
just yeah, yeah. You don't want to be on allergy medication the rest of
No,
your life. Yeah,
no,
just
are you
yeah.
kidding? It's like all these guys who do they go to Turkey and get the hair plugs, but then you have to take like meds for the rest of your life. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like,
You do? I
yes,
didn't know that.
yeah,
Wow.
you have to take like something so that it sticks, right? Like, and I was like, I don't. I think if this just keeps going all the way back, I'm just gonna just shave it off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got, Instagram shows you like the weirdest stuff and like the discover page. You
Hmm.
just look at one thing and then suddenly I was getting like inundated with like Instagram reels of people getting veneers,
Oh my
and
god,
like these were not good looking veneers, like
like toilet teeth, where it's like
yeah, like with
white.
with like chiclets in their mouth.
Yes.
yeah, I saw a whole bunch of people like, and like these were definitely not like English language reels of like getting like the
Mhm.
veneers, and like each one was worse than the last.
Sometimes, like, I understand the want to go that route where, okay, I wanna, like, zhuzh up and tweak, but I feel the aftermath, the not knowing what it's gonna be, I just couldn't risk looking like I'm okay with how I look. If I was to do that and then have, like, Nicki Minaj teeth for the rest of my life, I would be, like, really bummed.
Yeah. And it's to the point now where everyone you see on in movies and TV and in social
Yeah.
media, they have the perfect teeth and the perfect nose, that when somebody has a little bit of a, like a more distinctive look,
Mhm.
I'm like instantly like drawn to them. Like, whoa, like
Yeah.
I'm watching the show Severance right now. And
My sister told once again, my sister, she told me about it.
oh, it's good. Yeah, I recommend it. But everybody is so distinct looking, like Adam Scott and all the other actors. I like that they look like
People.
average people. They don't look like movie stars, but their
Mhm.
faces are, and like John Turturro, like their faces are as interesting as the rest of the show. And just like I just kind of love the close-ups that they show these people's unique faces. And it's just so it's kind of nice to see that, like normal looking people for once.
Think about historically, if you look at images of women and men and people in the past where they have very distinct features. They're not, right now we're in this era of like sameness, which I feel is there's going to be a shift eventually. I think people are we're gonna move away from it. I already feel that even in just this conversation, people are like, okay, I'm kind of done with everybody looking the same. And if you look at historically, once again, like these, there's something to it. You know what I mean? Like in how people were shown, it was just like the uniqueness of the individual. And so with your work, like a lot of your influence is history. And so like, do you find that the figures that you're drawing and what inspires you to kind of create a piece?
Yeah, I studied art history in college, and so a lot of my work is is referential to various periods in art history, and I go through phases. For a few years, all my drawings are inspired by like tintype photography, 19th century photography, and then I got into neoclassicism for a spell, and just like really like just spending a lot of time like just going through and looking at images from neoclassical artists, English portraiture from the court of Henry VIII, which is like going back to what you're talking about, like the way people looked back then. They didn't have cameras, and so like when Henry VIII was looking for a wife, they would just send an artist out and paint a picture of her, and then bring the picture back to him and be like, "You like,"
The
and
modern day
so
equivalent, it's like, oh, look at this picture I got. Took a screenshot from his Instagram.
yeah, it was just like hilarious to think like him sitting waiting for the artist to go to some other country and paint this portrait and bring it back. And then like there's that famous one of Anne of Cleves that it was Hans Holbein the younger painted, and they brought it back, and he liked the portrait. He thought she was beautiful, but apparently she didn't look like the portrait, because when she came to marry him, yeah, he was like, no, 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 no. And like he was really I think they got divorced pretty fast because he was disappointed that she didn't look like the portrait that was painted of her. Yeah.
This is once again feeling very Craigslist. Yeah. You don't look like your picture.
So yeah, yeah, I'm always intrigued by the stories behind the sitters of these portraits, and the way that their likeness is passed down to us over hundreds and hundreds of years. And we might lose the story about the person, but their image lives on forever in our collective memory.
Oh yeah. I love how inspired by the past you are because it still it feels like I could have cut this out of a book from 300 years ago and plop it down today and say, yeah, this is from the past. But I love the way that you merge that old aesthetic but then the modern, like where you're putting like animal heads or like different, so like where did that come from?
Like a lot of things, I think it was just something I was playing around with, and having fun, and just kind of engaging in like my kind of curious side, like
Hmm.
the things I was reading about, and the various topics I was interested in, was just kind of like showing up in funny and unusual ways in my work. And I mean, I suppose I could ascribe a deeper meaning to it, but it was really just me kind of having fun visually, like by connecting all of these different things in
Yeah.
my brain, and pushing them together in a composition and then seeing like what comes out in the end of the process. All art is self-expression, and I think instead of my work mostly being about how I feel, it's kind of like what I'm thinking about at a certain time,
Hmm.
or what is really kind of what I'm interested in terms of like what I'm reading about, or whatever. All the different books or topics I'm reading about kind of get overlapped in my mind, and it comes out in the work.
I am not the type to always need deep meaning when it's the work is there. If it's how you're feeling in the moment, this is what just came out of me in this time. I think that there's validity in that. I don't, when some people are like, "Oh, the deep meaning," I'm not, unless it's something specific for, okay, if I'm working with a client and they're like, I need the, what's the messaging of the brand, and then you're thinking about what colors represent these ideas, yada yada. That's its own thing. But if it's art and you're just expressing what you want to express and you're just trying new things, I don't think there needs to be a deep explanation all the time.
No, I totally agree. I think all of that, all those like dumb stereotypes about artists, how they're tortured souls and they find deep meaning. It's another way of people thinking that art is inaccessible to them, you
Hmm.
know. And I really disagree with that. I think everyone is creative. If you're a person, if you're a human, you have the capability of being creative.
Hmm.
And so much of that, like so many conversations I have with folks who are just like, oh, I'm just so not creative, or I couldn't draw, and I think they convince themselves that of that first, and then they never even bothered. And it doesn't even have to be like artistic creativity. Like there's
100%.
yeah, yeah,
No, no, keep
and
going.
just that like the whole like art has to have some sort of deep, profound meaning is just another way of people convincing themselves that because they don't see the profound meaning in the work, or they never thought of it that way, that they themselves could not do anything creative.
To me, even this, like, the premise of this podcast, I want to talk to creatives. Now, are they all visual artists? No. Like, that's, to me, that is not what a creative is. Yes, in my world, that's what a creative is, but at the end of the day, to me, it's, if you have any sort of vision that you are putting the work towards creating something for yourself in a way that didn't exist before, that is creation. It's create, like, that's what that means, right? If we whittle it down. And
Hmm.
so those are the people that I want to talk to. And I always get such a, like, a boost of energy talking to the things that make people, that galvanize them in their lives, because that's what are we here for. Like, the world is so annoying right now that, like, if I can have these conversations where, let's talk about the things that you like in a way that is not like, I don't care about pop culture, I don't care about all these, like, other things, for me, because I'm in this path, right? So for me, I like it. So to hear you talk about it, it's exciting.
Yeah. um, yeah, and so um, I had a thought there, and then my cat walked through the frame.
I fucked you up.
I lost my train of thought. My thought went to get out of the way.
Don't worry about it, honestly.
um, and I also think that people get self-conscious because they think of it as something that they have to um, show or act or perform.
Yes.
I love finding folks on Instagram or other social media apps who are just like making stuff for the pure joy of just doing it themselves,
Hmm.
and they're not looking for engagement or an audience, and they're not like creating content or whatever. And
Yeah.
what I love about it is I can feel like through the screen like how much of this is just an act of compulsion. Like they're doing it because they can't not do it. They're making something for the sheer joy of doing it, and that gets lost, I think, in a lot, especially nowadays when everything is um, being captured by like this like capitalistic drive for
Yes.
creation, content, and marketing and branding, and all the things that separate um, the original kind of joy of creativity from the work. Like, and
Hmm.
I think I try, with my students, like
I
for arts.
was literally gonna go, and I was about to ask you.
What? What were
No,
you gonna
no,
ask?
no, no. Go ahead. But I was just about to talk about, like, because your students, they're born into the internet, like they're born into this new generation of everything online is, let's, how do we make money? How do we sell ourselves? So how is that? Sorry, I totally cut you off, but I'm just genuinely curious.
Well, in a big way, in a macro sense, I think there's this big fight in academia right now about, is a liberal arts education valuable in its own right?
Hmm.
Is it worth it just to go to college and learn something, learn about the world, learn about yourself, learn how to communicate? Or is it a jobs program? Like, do you go to college for a job, or do you go to
Like a
college
trade.
for, yeah, I see it in art schools, like, um, when I was in school, I think a lot of schools were still kind of like that Bauhaus art school style, where you just went and it was kind of like a well-rounded art education. Like, you took design classes, but you also took like 3D design and sculpture and painting, and I was taking computer classes along with my traditional media classes, as just so I could have like a well-rounded education. And now I think my school and a lot of art schools are trending toward like, get them in, declare your major as soon as possible, and then learn a whole bunch of skills that makes you somebody that like a animation studio will want to hire.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a job as soon as possible out of college, and then the college can say, hey, look, all of our graduates are getting jobs, so come to our school.
A hundred
And
percent.
I think kids, like you said, kids who grow up in that, who only think of ways to commodify their talents, start to get disillusioned, even like as young as like college kids. And I worry that they're going to lose the joy of creativity, and this struggle to find a way
Hmm.
to market it and to sell it and to make money at doing it.
Your students age were a good chunk older than them. But I think about even when I was looking at, post secondary almost 20 years ago and thinking, what do I want to do? Like, what are my skills? What direction do I go in? And once again, I went in a direction where I'm like, okay, I'm a creative. I have these skills. I can put it towards graphic design. And that has been something where I have used my skills to make money, and it's created the life that I have. But at the same time, that young human who was like a very much an artist, that light has dimmed a little bit because everything I do creatively is with not everything, like this obviously isn't that, but like visually, like I'm working as a creative I'm selling my time and my skills for $1, and that takes away from my joy when it comes to creative, like my own creative ventures, right?
That's a risk no matter what you do when you enter into any kind of creative industry.
Hmm.
Whether it's visual arts, graphic design, music, theater. There's always this constant tension between keeping sight of what you love about the work
Hmm.
versus what you can do to just make money to survive.
Yeah.
Doing the thing that you like to do. Yeah, my day job is graphic design. I do freelance graphic design, and I was an illustration major in college, and then I just took a couple of graphic design classes along with my other classes that I took, art history and everything else that I studied in college. And then I just got into an internship my senior year in college, and that kind of like snowballed. Then that led to a full time job, and then that led to another graphic design job. And so, yeah, the graphic design gig is what pays my bills.
Hmm.
And yeah, there are days when I really enjoy it, and I'm not even like thinking of it as work. I'm kind of just vibing. You get in that kind of like flow where you're just loving what you're doing, and time passes, and you have no idea how long it's been.
Yes.
And then of course, like then you get like these days where you hate every minute of it, and you're doing things that you hate, but the client told you to do it that way. You're
Uh-huh.
just like, oh, you're like designing with like your hands over your eyes.
Oh yeah, all the time.
That's a constant tension. And so one thing, like I have the design gig that pays the bills, and that actually helps fund the more creative pursuits that I like my fine artwork and the gallery exhibitions and the comic. But I couldn't do it without the design job, that's for sure.
I'm not even going to say that because I don't want this on record, but I was going to be like branding in general. I find it's a creative outlet for me. Everyone is different because I'm working with, whether it's a team or an individual on their business, their brand. That part is very fun. But once again, the OG, the OG Geo was an artist, like a draw, like an illustrator, a painter. Like that's what I kind of started on. And so in this digital era, like would I love to just paint all day and create? Absolutely, it would be fun. But I'd also need to eat, and you kind of find that balance. But I feel like with you, and I don't know, like I'm looking at this from the outside, right? I'm looking through your socials. That's kind of how we interact. It seems like you have a good balance of you have your design work, but then you're also very much still in pursuit of the art.
That's a conscious effort, which is something else I think a lot of people misunderstand about artists is that like the motivation and drive kind of just comes innately, and you don't have to work at it.
Yeah.
But striking that balance, drawing, even though I love drawing, of course there are like lots of nights when that's the last thing I want to do, but I still show up to do it. I still sit down on my desk and try to get a little bit of drawing done.
Hmm.
um, and yeah, and it's because of that, like I have to continually remind myself like what my goals are, and doing the things that I in the moment I don't like doing, but I know that they'll, get me one step closer to my goals, like not going out, which honestly, like, that's not a big issue for me. I don't like going out anyway. Maybe that's not a big sacrifice. But, like, it's staying home and like sitting at my desk when all I want to do is get up and, get out of my house and like go do, anything else but work. And yeah, and it's work. It like even though it's quote creative work, it's still work. It
It's
still
work.
takes an effort. That's something just over the years I've had to learn how to strike that balance. I tell my students when I graduated college, I was so sick of art.
Mm.
I actually didn't do anything art wise for like a year after I graduated. I had the internship, this graphic design job, which was at the art museum. So I was still around art, and I still like was talking about it, and it was still fun to be
Hmm.
um, continually like surrounded by creativity and art. But I just needed to take a break. I was
Yeah.
just so I thought I was not going to be able to do art ever again when I graduated because I was so worn out. I was just completely exhausted. College really took it out of me, creatively.
Oh, yeah.
And then I eventually found my way back. It took a year or so, but I started making art again. And the first time I was doing it, and I realized it wasn't for like a school project, was just kind of like, oh, this is really nice. And I started
Hmm.
finding my joy again in making art.
I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a breather from being immersed in it, because it's like anything, right? You kind of get sick of, especially post school. Like school, I listen, I by the end I'm like, I don't want to think about this. And then you have to, not have to, but the way that we're programmed is that you go to school and immediately go right into a job.
Hmm.
I had maybe 6 months, a 6 month breather in between when I graduated to when I started working full time agency. And I was happy to have that pause. Like I think I was working for the tourism board. Like I was like on the double decker tour buses, like doing that whole thing. And my mom at the time was like, when are you going to find a job? Like you're wasting your time. I'm like, girl, it's been 6 months. Like that's been like, you know what I mean? Like who cares in the grand scheme of life? Like you're wasting your degree. I'm like, I'm not wasting shit. Like give me a minute. Like I don't want to go right into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you do. And then, like that is another reason why I feel like people need to think of college as an educational experience and not a jobs program,
Hmm.
because then yeah, you get into those thought processes where like if you don't get into the field you studied, your degree is a waste of time, and
Yes.
I think and especially nowadays considering how expensive college is, there's even more pressure now to think of it as like you have to spend $100,000 so that you can go get a good job, and if you don't get a good job it's a waste of time. So I really understand that why people think that. I wish that more people thought of college as just another phase of kind of like education and self-discovery, being a lifelong learner, like all the things that you can't really commodify or put a dollar amount to.
We don't live in that world, like the world
No.
that we live in. Yeah, it's true. We live in this world where everything is, how can we capitalize on everything. There's gonna be a turnaround. I just feel it. Like people are getting sick of the way we're going. Obviously, look at fucking world we're in with your students, like not to just focus on your teaching, but I'm genuinely curious. You have this young, I assume most of them are younger, because them having grown up in, the tech era, and you being not of that generation 100%, like how do you help them reconcile with the world that they live in as creatives?
I'm lucky in my class because I teach figure drawing, and even though technology has changed a lot, the basic tenets of the practice are the same.
Hmm.
What I teach is the way that I was taught, and then that was the way that my teachers were taught. So I'm fortunate that like we already, my students and I have this common ground. We can talk about that, and that spans generations. Of course, then it's kind of like the areas where I've had to catch up is like digital art. And in my figure drawing class, I allow my students to draw digitally. It's another skill, and it's a skill
Hmm.
building exercise. And if they're going to be drawing digitally after they graduate, they might as well learn how to draw in my class. But because of that, I've had to like make sure, like I got my iPad and I taught myself Procreate so that I
Yes.
could like talk to them about different digital drawing techniques in
Hmm.
class. And of course, there's always new digital drawing programs that I know nothing about. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because of that, and I need to like be learning what's Clip Studio Paint is the one that a lot of my students use, and I don't know anything about Clip Studio Paint.
It's the first time I've heard of it, so
Yeah.
that tells you something.
And like there's like Japanese programs, and then there's all well, obviously Photoshop. A lot of students still use that, but the more these different drawing programs come onto the market, the more I feel like I don't know anything about my own my own practice anymore. I just use a pencil. you know.
But stick to it. Stick to that. To me, I with technology evolves so incredibly fast that things that we're learning are going to be obsolete so soon. And so that's why I'm not trying to, I don't follow the like you have to learn this and these are there's too much information. I'm like I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. It seems to be working, and I'm gonna keep that train going, because otherwise I'm gonna get so lost in the sauce of I have to learn all these new skills, all this new app. Like when the Kara app or Kara, however you say it, came
Yeah,
out, and
yeah.
everyone's like, oh, all of the artists are moving over, and then Blue Sky, and everyone's like going to Blue Sky, and I'm like, and then I you do it, and then you're like, there's this, it's too. I don't need this many apps. I don't need these many programs to be using. Let me just like streamline my life.
It's getting ridiculous. Yeah, and I understand. Like, yeah, Twitter or X is now garbage. I kept my account. I didn't delete it because I didn't want someone to take my handle or
Can you
username or whatever.
deactivate it?
So I locked it down, and I deleted all of my tweets and all my artwork from it. So it's just an empty account that's locked down. You can't even, if you're not a follower, you can't even get to it. I moved to Kara and PixelFed and Blue Sky, and whichever next one was. And I kind of like I set up accounts there just in case. I have
Yeah.
accounts at all of them, but I
So
don't
you
use
have the
them.
name.
It's ridiculous. And then in the next year there'll be another one. Blue Sky is I think testing an Instagram alt. Like
Hmm.
it's like a photo sharing app that is
Mm,
run on the Blue Sky platform, which would be nice. But the thing is, like with Kara, if it's just artists on the app,
exactly.
it like you need like art enthusiasts, you need buyers, you need clients, you need people who are going to buy your work.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'll regret saying this, but when like I have like a gallery show and all my artist friends come to the show, it's great to show that support. Like you need your community support, but I need people in there to buy my work.
Yes, a hundred
And
percent.
it's the same with the apps. Like if buyers aren't on the apps, what's the point?
It's the equivalent of going to a market square, like an actual physical market, and then but there's no one. It's just all the vendors.
Hmm.
There's no one there actually buying any fruit or vegetables or whatever, and everyone's just like, well, we're just sitting here. Our product is not moving, and that's how it felt. And I was like, I don't know. Like I need other people to see my shit. So that's honestly one of the reasons why I went about this, was because I'm like, I love this format. I really enjoy talking to people. And so for me, it's a way to add an extra branch of the geographic brand out into the world for people who are not looking at my Instagram and my design work online. Like it's like anybody could see this because it's going to go beyond just Instagram, right? I can market myself in a way where it's like, oh, there is a human being behind all the work. Cause like all I do is post portfolio. And I'm like, okay, I got to stop that because that is not doing enough for me. Like you said at the beginning, where, the algorithm made me start recording video. And I'm like, I'm going to play the game and see where it takes me. I'm just not going to be afraid about it.
Make something that you've never made before and just throw it out there and see what kind of response you get in return and see what people think, like that's valid, as someone who makes stuff and puts it out there and then somebody buys it or even just like leaves like a really kind comment on a post, it's so validating,
Hmm.
and it's, ultimately it's not why I do it or why I should do it,
Yeah.
but it keeps me going,
Hmm.
in the middle of the night when I all I want to do is go to bed. Like just like knowing that like I have that support out there is really really helpful in like kind of keeping me going through like days of self doubt and
Hmm.
exhaustion. And I think about all of the amazing creative people who had to quit their art making and go get like a 9 to 5 just to survive,
Yeah.
because they couldn't support themselves on their art making. Just think how much is lost in a society like that, where people they have to make the tough choice of like going to getting the job that pays the bills, or going to in some kind of going into some kind of creative field that they love but doesn't make them a lot of enough money to survive.
A friend of mine, I interviewed her on an earlier episode. She owns a fitness boutique here in Windsor, Ontario. And she was saying, like, on her, when she was doing her first business plan, there's like a contingency section where it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do if you fail? Like, if it doesn't work out? And she was like, that's not an option for me. Like, there's the people that were like, okay, I don't want to put that. And it's, everyone has their own path. Like, I'm not on anyone's decisions on how they want to live their life. But her approach was like, there is no fail safe. Like, I'm doing this. Like, I'll just work harder. I'll try to make it happen. And for those people who they want to push themselves to really, like, they're like, that's the vision. That's how I felt. I'm like, I don't have to the idea. Like, I've considered going back to work full time for an agency or whatever, and even like about within the last 6 months, because it's the economy's not what it was. I wasn't making the money that I normally do. I was starting to look for other jobs, and I realized, I'm like, I applied to so many places and I never got a single call, like not one. And I applied to like almost 30 jobs. And I was like, this is bleak. If I'm applying, I'm like, am I overqualified? Like, so I was like, you know what? This is my sign that that path is not for me. I need to keep pushing and keep doing geographic and working for myself, because it's just showing that for me, and that's not for everybody, but that's how I feel. I'm like, I'm not gonna let this thing fail.
Yeah, sometimes persevering against all odds is what gets you there,
Hmm.
the people who are successful are the ones who just simply just never give up,
Yes.
and that's hard to do, like when everything is telling you to quit externally and internally and you
Hmm.
choose not to quit, that takes a lot of courage. Yeah, and that's respectable. I have a friend of mine from college who applied to Pixar for I think every
Amazing.
year for like a decade, and every year he was rejected until the one year he applied and he was accepted. He just simply did not give up, and now he works at Pixar.
He visualized it, he saw it for himself, and he's doing it, and that's amazing.
Yeah, like visualizing it or manifesting it, that's step one. You have to have a vision of your goal, but
Hmm.
then the step two is figuring out how you get there.
And
Yeah,
keep it.
yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta
And,
gotta, you
and
gotta
keep it
maintain it.
in spite of all opposition. Yeah, and like even when you feel like there's no hope, just keep if that's what you want to do, then keep working toward it.
So on the topic of manifesting, because you talked about, doing solo shows and having people buy your art, do you have any upcoming shows that you're working on right now?
Yeah, I have one coming up in September at a gallery in LA, La Luz de Jesus. I've worked with them multiple times over the years, and they're just a really great gallery to work for. I really enjoy them, and that's another example. Like they They accept outside artists submitting work to a group show only once a year. And I tried to get work in a couple times, and I was always getting rejected until one year I submitted work. And like you're like, oh, I'm not going to get in. And that's the year that
Hmm.
your stuff was accepted.
Yeah.
And then I got that foot in the door, and then they invited me back for a group show, and now I'm coming back again in September. Um, so yeah, it just that for me, like um, I talk a good game about not giving up, but for me, I have felt in the face of failure of just of quitting because it hurts when you're rejected a lot.
That's
Like it's
normal.
really hard to recover. you know o- Over the years, that's one thing I've never actually gotten better at is accepting rejection. Like it still stings, and I've,
Hmm.
I've I've submitted work probably like hundreds of shows, and I've been rejected from most of them, and that never gets any easier. But for whatever reason, I keep trying it.
But you never want to stop. I think once you give up, you're like rolling over a little bit, and I respect the fact that you're still going at it. One thing that has helped me, and I'm in no way trying to say this like, let me give you advice. Like that's not how I mean this. But for me, what works when it comes to that is anytime, like when I was younger, obviously, like the rejection piece was very real to me. I'm like, oh my God. Like now I look at it where if I put my hat in the ring or I apply for something or whatever, I look at it as like it's not meant for me. It wasn't meant for me because it's actually going to create more space for what is supposed to come into my life. And that is a way for me to look at it in a way that doesn't allow me to attach too much to it. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, there's so many people out there trying to
Yeah,
they're applying for these roles or getting these solo shows or whatever. And so the ones that you are currently working on, those are the ones that were meant, in my mind, are meant for you to be part of.
I try to tell that to my students, even though I have to convince myself sometimes it's not personal when you're rejected.
No.
A lot of these places are getting hundreds and hundreds of applicants. Um, a lot of them, it's just it's not meant for you at that time. Try again next year. You know,
Yeah.
that might be your time next year. Just because you're rejected from a gallery or a job or whatever one year doesn't mean that you shouldn't try again sometime in the future if there's another opportunity. It's hard not. Yeah, I get it. Like I take it personally too, and I have to tell myself it's not personal.
No.
um, it's never personal. Yeah, they're even the people like the jurors for shows and like people who are accepting job applications. They've been rejected too. They know how much it hurts.
But they don't know
And
you. It's like they don't know
yeah.
you enough to be like, "Ugh, I hate that girl." Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not what they're doing.
It still stings though. Yeah, it never really gets easier.
No, it doesn't get easier, but I think, this is when this is moments where we have to tell ourselves and I'm saying this as you're like, I'm very talented. I have a lot of skill. I have so much to offer in what I do. If they can't see that, then that's on them. You know what I mean? Like we still as creatives, as artists, have to be strong in ourselves to say, I'm and it's not ego. You're like, I know what I'm doing. I can offer so much to the world. If they can't see it, then what I have to offer is not meant for them.
It's a fine line between crippling self-doubt
Hmm.
and being a megalomaniac.
100%.
Like I don't know what that is. That weird space in between like those two extremes, like I think artists rightfully so sometimes be are accused of being a little bit self-absorbed. And not and like that's not always like a negative. I think
Yeah.
because artists are introspective and they spend a lot of time thinking about what they do and why they do it. Of course, when you kind of are mulling over your own thoughts that much, that comes across maybe to others as being self-absorbed. One of my art teachers in college told me something that stayed with me all these years. She talked about how artists, because they do that, they go through this continuous process of kind of self exploration and self reflection and discovery. They know themselves better than other folks who don't ever like engage in that process with themselves.
100%.
You talk to like a 60 or 70-year-old artist or filmmaker or fashion designer, and you hear them and they talk like they have the wisdom of the ages. But I think it's because they spent their whole life really like getting deep in their own psyches and trying to understand themselves. And you never get there, but you spend your whole lifetime trying, and
Hmm.
I think that really kind of shows through in later years, and like with when you listen to these older artists talk and the wisdom that they're able to kind of convey to folks. And it's something that like folks who don't do that, I think, are really missing out. And if that's I think that's maybe why people think artists are a bit self-absorbed.
The masses are always going to look at those who, let's say, like, and I don't mean this to sound any type of way, but who like sparkle a little brighter as like, oh, like, look at you. And it's like, well, you have all of the tools to go down that route or take that path. Each one of us has that in us to explore ourselves. But a lot of people are afraid to do it. They don't want to do it. They don't, and it's not about having the means. Like, to be a creative, you don't have to have any means. You can literally do it out of nothing. It just is that, do I want to question who I am and what I am, to dive a little deeper, and what does that look like to an individual, right? And not everybody has that. So to me, when you can always tell people who have like lived or really like been in within themselves, because you're like, oh, you can actually articulate a little bit differently than the someone who's like status quo.
Because there's so everything in the outside world is pressuring you to pick the major that will get you the money, and don't act or do or say or behave in a way that causes people to look at you funny,
Hmm.
and um, I think a lot of people, when they're younger, their creative urges are actively suppressed, by their parents or their teachers or the people around them, and the people are raised in that kind of culture where anything that is quirky that would make them shine brighter is kind of met with negative reinforcement all the way through their life, and then they forget how to access that part of themselves after a while.
So how do you keep that going in yourself?
I was, the awkward kid in school. I was a big nerd, I was made fun of. That bothered me a lot, being bullied like that in school. But for whatever reason, I still did the things that I wanted to do. I guess I never quit. I think a big help were my parents. They encouraged me to draw, and they encouraged me to be creative, and they didn't object when I decided to go to art school. you know, um, when I know that many people's parents would have chosen a different route,
Oh yeah.
and I'm grateful for them that they allowed me the space to do that. Even like as long as I can remember, they never discouraged me from being creative. And I remember like my mom told me the story. My dad would never tell me the story, but my mom told me after I had graduated college. This was a while after I graduated college. My mom told me that they were at the dining room table one night, like doing the bills and crunching the numbers. It was hard to come up with the money to pay for my tuition.
Hmm.
And my mom she even like said out loud something to the effect of like, well, like maybe we can't do this for him, or maybe he's got to take some time off or find, another way to pay for it. And my dad was just like, no. He was adamant. He's like, no, we are doing this. We are like paying for his tuition. We are not giving up no matter what. I'm lucky, I don't think many people have that kind of support, and they have to find their own way in spite of all of the external pressures telling them to not be creative or like be themselves or find the thing that makes them unique, and encourage that in themselves. They still find a way.
We are nearing the end, and this can go either personal, professional, any way, any direction you want to go in. But if you were to look back at your life and think about what was the most on brand thing you've ever done, what would it be?
Most on brand.
Hmm.
Um, well, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to turn the question around back to you. How would you answer that question?
I think just how I go about my whole like existence, not going and doing the like regular 9 to 5 path. That to me, it made me so unhappy. So I was like, I can't do this. Like, I need to do my own thing. And I've always marched to the beat of my own drum. When I fall into I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to do, that's when the most unhappy. When you see me in a good place and I'm like doing it, I think that's the most on brand thing for me, is just following what's in here, as cheesy as that sounds.
Hmm. No, that's good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think the most on brand thing that I've done when the economic crisis happened in 2008
Hmm.
and everyone was getting laid off and I got laid off and it was like just a graphic design job, but it was like the third time I was laid off before I turned 30, and it was just getting to me. It was really demoralizing,
Yeah.
I decided to enroll in a graduate program to study art crime, and it just like, let's do this.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm not thinking ahead. Like, is this going to lead to a job? I don't care. I like the subject. I miss being in school. Even though earlier I just said like how exhausted I was like after I graduated from art school, but
You're
by
allowed to
two,
be exhausted by things that you like. That's okay.
I guess that's another on-brand thing, like me always contradicting myself, you know.
Yeah.
And so like I did it, like I enrolled. It was like this independent master's program where you had to go out and find your own instructors. And so I was like just like reaching out to like the authors of like art crime books and papers and research materials who, and I'm like, hey, would you want to like sign up, be my instructor for this class for grad school?
Hmm.
I got to go to Italy and studied with the founder of the FBI's art crime squad, and it
That's
was just like
amazing.
a complete waste of money. Like there's no financial benefit to like study, but I just, after like trying adulthood for a while and just like continually getting laid off, and I was like, like I'm tired of being an adult. I'm going to go to do what I want to do, and that's
Yeah.
what I did.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's your life. Like, I will champion anyone who just says, you know what, it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
like run away for a little bit and do my own thing.
and I wish that there was more financial support for people who wanted to just run
Yes.
away and do their own thing.
I know, I
Yeah,
know.
but a federal agency where all you do is you apply. You're like, I want to go do the dumbest thing that I can think of, and I want you to like just finance my cost of living for 2 years. And I want the agent at this federal agency to like rubber stamp and be like, here you go. You
Yeah.
know,
Wouldn't
go do
that
what
be
you want to
nice?
do. Let your freak flag fly. I mean, like Elon Musk gets to do it. He gets billions of dollars from the government to go like make rockets that blow up. Which I got to say, he is a continual and perpetual failure. But I saw the video of his latest rocket that exploded over the Gulf of Mexico,
Hmm.
and I got to say, it was pretty. He can make rockets explode in a really pretty way. That's one thing going for him. I like the videos. They were cool to watch.
The silver linings. I know, honestly, like I don't know where we're headed. I'm very like just head down, let me focus on the things that I can control, because at that point that's what keeps me um feeling like I have some control over what my
Yeah,
life is right now.
it's very disorienting. It's scary,
Hmm.
like in a way that I've never experienced in my adult life. Watching
No.
all of this happen and having no control and not knowing what what things are going to look like on the other side. You know, I think about my students. Being in college at a time like this and not knowing what what the country is going to look like when they are graduating and they're going out there.
Hmm.
That's got to be really frightening too, because even the grown-ups don't know, what's going on. It's
Oh
scary for
yeah.
everybody right now.
I think about my cousins, they're even younger. They're like high school. How does that generation have hope for
Yeah,
any type of a future? I think having people like you can give them hope and show that there is a future in creative industry. That already is something that is helping some people in the next generation on some level. You have to say that that's the truth.
yeah, and in a way, for so many people, for so many marginalized people, that's the way life has always been. You can't rely on society at large to be looking out for you. You got to find your own way, and you make your own community and support each other. I just think it's a lesson that everybody is learning right now. You know?
Yes, we all have to work together to move forward. It doesn't matter what your background is, who you are, where you come from. This is kind of a theme of a lot of the episodes I've been doing. Is where people were like, "Yes, we need each other. Regardless of who you are."
The way that so much of our socializing has been like uploaded to social media, I think has been a problem. And
Oh yeah.
especially in times like this, I understand when a lot of people talk about how like social media is their community. Like that's where they found their tribe, on social
Hmm.
media. I get that, But then when things go bad in the world, I also experienced how lonely that can feel. Like when I put my
Yeah.
phone down and I close my laptop and I'm just sitting by myself in my house, I just realized like I had relied on social media to stay connected to people in a way that I didn't realize had kind of taken over. And it when I'm not in it, I feel more alone than ever, you know. And it's going to be important for me and for everybody to kind of reconnect in the real world, and make sure that your in-person relationships are as strong as ever.
I'm kind of like the opposite, where when I'm not online, I feel more grounded in myself. I think about if I shut off the computer and I'm less online, I feel like more like, okay, I don't need the external voices to tell me that I'm good or that I'm doing good. Because at the end of the day, like, especially on social media, like everyone can say, like, woohoo, yay, you, like, go you. But then everyone's very self interested, right? Like, it's on some level, not everybody, but it exists in the social world online. When I can step away from it, I feel more like, oh, yeah, like I'm good. Like, I gotta stop worrying about everything. Like, even last night, I started overthinking. Something about podcasting came up. And then I started like spiraling. I'm like, did I make a mistake? Like, should I not go down this path? Like, why am I doing a podcast? People are going to see me online. Like, I'm exposing myself to more. I started spiraling. It was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I'm like, like, enough. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, stop it. Like, this is so dumb. How could you be so headstrong in something and then a minute later, or like, one thing comes up and then suddenly the carpet is pulled out from under you and then you're like doubting everything you've been doing. You know what I mean? It's so that's why the social world, I'm like, fuck, just shh.
Yeah, I do that too. That's very on brand for me too. Sometimes I feel like I'm so sure about my choices, and then immediately I'm like, what did I get myself into?
Hmm. Oh, that's everybody. It's annoying. It's like, why can't we just 100% feel like headstrong in ourselves? Why does, and I think honestly, it's the online world. That's like, to me anyway, that is what does it.
Yeah, yeah, because when you're online, you feel constantly perceived, and yeah, you're really, it's really easy for you to be like doling out judgment to everybody you see online,
Hmm.
and just it kind of brings out the worst in you. On Blue Sky, people were talking about what is it, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, the 20-year-olds now. I forget what their label is, but how they don't go out drinking
Yeah.
like older generations used to. And like people were speculating that it's probably because everybody has a phone, and if there's nowhere you can go out and just like be goofy, because someone might get it on
Yeah.
video and then you're on TikTok, the next day,
Hmm.
just like that surveillance state. Like we created a surveillance state inadvertently, and everybody feels like they have to be on their best behavior and that they can't. And then even like the positive interactions feel very performative. Like I remember
Yes.
when what used to be on Facebook, I would post my artwork or post a stupid Facebook post or whatever they're called on Facebook. And I just like one friend who would always like make a comment, just like it was like, that's beautiful, that's great, that's so funny. But with every comment or everything I said, they would respond that way. And it got like really fast. It's just like, oh yeah, this is just like she's performing. Like this
Mm.
is, it felt very shallow. And I started dreading like, and she was always the first one to comment, and I started dreading like to see her like, the little notification like ding, so and so, because I'm like, oh yeah, she's just like performing encouragement. Yeah, it was really, it's just like social media gets people, myself included, to behave in very, very strange ways.
Yeah.
When I was on Twitter, I all I was doing was scrolling looking for fights. I don't know why. I just like I loved finding Twitter fights and just like going through all the comments. I would like waste literally hours of my day just like reading fights between people I don't even know
But
on
you weren't
Twitter.
in it. You were just like seeing.
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, that seems that's off brand for you.
No, I
I
was
can't see you fighting online.
I no, I never did it, but for whatever reason, I just love being a spectator,
Oh yeah,
and it's just
train
like,
wrecks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I would put my phone down. I would just like look around. I realized like I don't know, 6 hours had gone by, and that's all I did all day. Like it's like, ugh, yeah, that's gross.
We all do it. Like I one of my like I wouldn't say guilty pleasure because it's not a pleasure. It's like just something that I'm fascinated with. Is I can find myself, and I don't do it as much because it started to like give me brain rot, but because as a kid growing up, I loved like National Geographic, Animal Planet. Like I was obsessed with animals. Like I got the wildlife fact files. Did you ever get that as a kid?
Hmm. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So like that, I had the binder and I had the subscription. Like my mom would get it for me, and so all the animal, like I loved reading about animals. I read books about like where the protagonist in the series was an animal. Like I just loved that. So as an adult, I'm realizing I'm like kind of going, like that part of me is still there, but videos online where I will watch videos of nature's metal, where it's like predators attacking. And I don't like gore and like horror movies, but for some reason I'm fascinated by like nature, like in nature, these visuals. And I'm like, there've been moments where I'm like, I just spent an hour scrolling videos of like cheetahs ripping antelopes apart. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the am I doing? Like, this is crazy. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta get off because I'm like, I can only see so many exposed organs on the ground.
But it's like social media is like that. Like you express interest in one thing, and then
Yes,
it's like, here is,
everything.
yeah, like here are 700 years worth of videos of cheetahs ripping up other animals. And have at it. Like you can
Yeah.
spend the rest of your life watching them now.
It's so crazy. And I'm like, okay, I actually have to turn this off because I'm like, or stop interacting with these posts so that I stop getting them so much in the algorithm. Because then all I'm seeing are like, you know, murdered gazelles. Like, it's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I used to love, so this is going to sound so corny, but I have to avoid nature documentaries because they always make me cry. What like I knew I had a problem because like there was that dinosaur one a few years ago on Apple TV, like Walking with Dinosaurs.
I think I saw that one. Yeah.
I saw like a clip of like a baby triceratops that got lost from like his herd, and I'm like, nope, nope, I can't watch that. I can't watch the CGI, the fake triceratops baby get lost because I will cry.
Oh, you're just a softie. That's
No,
cute.
I can. Yeah, I cannot abide those nature because they make me cry every time. Yeah, but yeah, I was a kid. When I was a kid, I loved them. I was like, yeah, I was really into nature, and I like all the dinosaur documentaries and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, it shows in your work, right? Like you can see the parallels.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like that does definitely show up in my work. Like, um, I'll follow down Wikipedia rabbit holes, just like reading about like various species of whales all day. And just looking at the pictures. I'll go to Wikipedia, just look at the pictures of the
Hey,
animals.
that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. To me, that's just, but that also tells me that you still have that like child curiosity that's still very present in you.
Yeah, I think that's a common thread in all kinds of creative pursuits, just that curiosity and wonder, like keeping that in yourself and not losing it after growing up and like getting beaten down by the
The system.
every yeah, the system. Just like living every day in this society that tells you that the last thing that you have time for is to be curious or to
Mhm.
express wonder.
This has been lovely. I'm so thankful that you said yes and that you took time out of your life to do this. I know I'm like a new venture. I'm not like this big show. So anyone who is giving me their time for this, like I'm beyond appreciative. Like I can't tell you.
Oh, sure, this was fun. I'm really glad that you reached out. I'm glad that you thought of me because I had a really fun time doing this.
So if anybody is looking to connect with you, to check out where your dates are for your solo show, etc., where can people reach out to you?
You can find me on Instagram, Grey GREY_graphite. I also have accounts on all of the other ones: Grey Graphite, Blue Sky, Kara, PixelFed, all the apps. Just you won't find me on Twitter anymore. Instagram is the one that I post most frequently too.
Hmm. And if anybody is looking to connect with me, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube as well. Leave a comment, subscribe, share with your friends. I'm new, that would be appreciated. And if you're looking to connect with me over branding or design, you can reach out to me through geographic.com and we can chat there. All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.